and then the Detroit Tigers this weekend. But all eyes on the Ravens, and the NFL draft begins Thursday night. And, of course, the Ravens sprung out to sign a wide receiver over the weekend in Snead, and a restricted free agent from the New Orleans Saints. Here to talk all things draft on the eve of his favorite weekend of the year. You know, Dennis Koulatsos, I hear a lot of people complaining about the draft, and it takes too long, it's 3 days long, and it's, 4 weeks later than it should be, and I got other things to do, and I got to mow the lawn, and the weather's going to be good this weekend. And you know what? I think it's been better in the past. I liked it better Saturday, Sunday, but I'll live with it, and I like that the league's growing it and moving it around and on the festival and all that stuff, and I'll get sick of seeing Jerry's World this weekend. But it is one hell of a weekend if you love the NFL to just sit back and take it all in and sort of reset where the league is, right? Team by team.
Yeah, it truly is, Nestor, and for a draft nick like myself, it's like a national holiday. It's like Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, and they had 250,000 people show up in Philadelphia last year. They'll have about 275,000 fans in Dallas for this weekend, for this version of the NFL draft. It's just one heck of a party. We see these players in college. We try to project how they're going to do, and the pros, who's going to take them. It's definitely full of intrigue, full of second-guessing, and all the mock drafts now, there's thousands of them all over the place. And, of course, we'll look at Mayock and Kuiper and the rest of those guys. And, look, it's very fun trying to figure out, even the Ravens draft board, who do they have ranked high? Who are they going to take? Are they going to trade back? Is there a trade-up scenario? The quarterback intrigue lurking in the background. So, to me, it's full of intrigue and mystery. And can we make our team better? Can they pick some starters from this year's draft? That's what it's all about.
Well, the one thing that's become very clear amongst this group of general managers is trading in season, out of season, off season, anytime, signing players, cutting players. It really is a wild, wild west. There's no more calendar. You can't set your clock, certainly not your sundial, by how these teams are going to operate. And all the mock drafts go away once the bullets start flying and deals start happening, because most years we see a lot of deals, and especially when there are this many quarterbacks and this many varying opinions. Somebody out there is in love with Sam Darnold. Somebody out there is in love with the kid from Wyoming. The Browns want to make it. I mean, the Ravens are sending smoke screens about Lamar Jackson just to sort of get somebody onto the sniffer at 16 that, maybe they would be in play to take him, that you might want to get on the phone with Ozzie, and Ozzie likes the deal. So my prediction would be that these mock drafts are all toilet paper at this point, because I do think, I would be shocked if there aren't 3 or 4 deals on Thursday night, beginning very early in the evening, that could create ripple effects, because that's how this usually works. And I think with the quarterbacks and the wide variety of opinions on players, not the 5 quarterbacks, but let's say after that, there's only 5, 6, 7 blue chip guys, right? Like that are on everybody's board above 15. And then after that, my God, it's a mishmash. There are 50 guys that I've seen mocked into picks 15 to 30. And, I think there's varying opinions on Gesicki's and, other tight ends and Ridley's and DJ Moore's, that the trade free-for-all and the feeding frenzy, my prediction would be a lot of deals on Thursday night.
Yeah, there's also a 6th quarterback, Mason Rudolph, from Oklahoma State. He's certainly in the conversation. He may also go top 12. All he needs is one team, as you mentioned, to fall in love with him, and there goes everybody's draft board. But you're right, there should be a bunch of deals made. It's going to make the draft even longer. I believe it starts at 8 p.m., which is a very late start. And once these trades start happening, all it does, Nestor, is just prolong the draft. I don't understand why they don't have it at an earlier hour. Maybe they start off on prime time on a Saturday, but it makes for a very long weekend. It's going to make for a very long night. And as Ravens fans, we want them to make the pick at 16 because if for nothing else, it prolongs the night. Everybody will groan. Remember the year they traded out of the first round and they picked up Corey Upshaw the next day? I mean, we've seen it happen with the Ravens. It seems more often than not. But I would like to see them stay at 16. I would like to see him take one of these blue chip players because, again, there's only 16, 17, 18 blue chip players every year in every draft. And if some of these quarterbacks get overdrafted, that means that the Ravens can land a blue chip player regardless of position. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a guy that can start day one. Last year, we kind of laughed and shrugged our shoulders when Ozzie Newsome picked up Marlon Humphrey, but Marlon Humphrey was one of the best A-team players in the draft last year. We saw his value. We saw him coming late, and thank goodness we had him. Had we not had Marlon Humphrey in that backfield, defensive backfield last year, we would have never been within the 4th and 12 of making the playoffs once again.
Now, if you could just get him a USB adapter for his iPhone, right?
Well, I think a bunch of our fans send him a whole bunch of USB adapters and chargers. I don't think he'll ever have to buy one the rest of his life. I think even when he changes phones, we're going to all send him some new chargers.
Make sure his phone's at 100% at all times.
Yeah, that'll be behind him. But I was talking to Luke the other day, and the big tackle out of Notre Dame, Mike McGlinchey, seems to be a very solid pick at number 16. You got to have the big uglies up front to win. We saw their value in the Super Bowl. We saw what it did for Dallas a couple of years ago, having a huge offensive line. And McGlinchey can play right tackle or left tackle. He's a clean prospect. He had a much better pro day than his more celebrated linemate Quentin Nelson. And for me, that's the cat. If he's there at 16, unless somebody else drops that's rated higher than him, that's what I can envision being a Baltimore Raven come this Thursday night.
He is Dennis Koulatsos. He's over at Kuntz Florida Security Boulevard. He'll also be here on Thursday pre-gaming you and getting you ready for the NFL draft. And we'll be talking about all of these picks and certainly doing that out online. Luke and I have been back and forth. There's a million mock drafts out there. Yeah, you mentioned McGlinchey. I've now seen him mocked late first round, and I've seen him mocked, number 8 in the draft. It's been a wild ride this time around because consensus players, man, other than Barkley and Nelson, maybe the safety.
Chubb is up there.
Chubb also.
Chubb is there.
But there aren't a whole lot of guys that are on everybody's mocks up at the top. And, that I guess that opens up conversation in a lot of different directions. Minka Fitzpatrick would be the other guy, I think. He'll be off the board. Derwin James, they'll be off the board by 12, 14. But there aren't a whole lot of other guys that I see that are uniquely stacked at the top of that board. It really is a mishmash at this point.
Yeah, Vita Vea, the big defensive tackle out of Washington, he's up there, but again, does not fit anywhere near a need for the Ravens. We have 2 huge defensive tackles on the interior, but there's a guy that's way up there. The linebackers, Roquan Smith, Tremaine Edmonds, they should both be up there. You can never have enough cornerbacks. Denzel Ward from Ohio State. But as you mentioned, the board is all over the place. Tight ends. Nestor, what do the Ravens do at tight end? I would hate to see them take a tight end at 16. The value just isn't there. But I have seen, as you mentioned in mocks, I have seen tight ends mocked to the Ravens at number 16.
I've seen Gesicki and Hurst both mocked to the Ravens at 16, which kind of tells me the dealing. Well, the dealing part of that would be if you think the Ravens like those guys and they're both there, Ozzie would have no problem backing up if New England wanted to come and get the quarterback, let's say, right? Like that quarterback sitting there at 16 becomes something that I think is very possible for the Ravens to deal out because I don't think they're going to take a quarterback. I mean, if they take a quarterback on Thursday, I would go back to the Liars Luncheon and say Ozzie told the truth when he said we might do something surprising. I don't think Ozzie does anything surprising. I think Ozzie's very well thought through, and if they take a quarterback, boy, it would tell me that they're absolutely in love with the quarterback and they're absolutely thinking the Flacco's shot. And I don't get that sense that they think Flacco's shot.
No, but you know what? Look, let's say the Jets pass to Baker Mayfield and he just starts to slide and tumble, and we've seen players in the past slide and tumble. If Baker Mayfield's there at 16, there is no reason why the Ravens don't make that pick. That guy would energize his town. He would come in with a chip on his shoulder. He would come here to take Joe Flacco's job. He would certainly light the fire, I would hope, under Joe Flacco. It would just make things very, very interesting. But back to the tight ends, I've seen Dallas Goedert from South Dakota State to the Ravens at number 16, Nestor, from a reputable, mock drafter, if you would. So there's 3 tight ends at 16 that people have mocked the Ravens. All 3 way too high.
Well, in retrospect, you would say, well, if they had taken Dennis Pitta in the first round, would that have been a bad pick? He was pretty instrumental. He played a big role at various points, not, hip injury notwithstanding and whatnot. And you would say, well, was Todd Heap worth the 31st pick in the draft? Yeah, I think you go back through these guys and say, if they're a first rounder, didn't matter where you took Matt Elam, you couldn't get him on the field, right? Didn't matter where you took Brashad Perryman, and I guess it wouldn't have mattered where you took Dallas Thomas if you get him on the field. Same thing would be said for Brandon Williams, right? Like, Brandon Williams has played like a first-round draft pick or a second-round draft pick, so they have found some of that value, and not to mention Koulatsos, Simile, and Ricky Wagner and Jensen in the end, although, for some of these players, the curve's a little longer on Paul Kruger or Art Jones or where those guys, once they became that player that could go and get paid. But the Ravens, I think we're all looking at this and saying whatever they do on Thursday, whether it's picking a tight end at 16, picking a tackle, whoever that player is, we want to see that player on the field, participating, playing at a credible level early on. That's our expectation, and that's a tough expectation for a tight end or a wide receiver, first-year, first-round draft pick. And I think Luke and I have gone through that a lot this week.
Yeah, and let's give Ozzie and Eric and the front office some credit here. What they've done with the addition of Crabtree and Brown and Willie Snead now, they've minimized the need to reach and stretch for wide receiver at 16. Now they can take their time and take that receiver in round 2, where Juju Smith-Schuster was picked last year. A lot of value, a lot of guys who are pretty much the same cat. They give you about the same thing. They do something better than the others in terms of their skill level, but they can get that wide receiver or that tight end in that second and third round and truly take the best player available in round 1. And I think that's how they make their team better. After day 2, everything else is a crapshoot. So it's really critical, the first 3 picks, what they do with them, and their ability for these players to get on the field, unlike some of the recent busts they've had. And I don't know what they're going to do with Brashad Perryman. They'll bring him in because it's going to cost them basically nothing, but this guy's going to have to fight and scratch and claw just to get on the roster this year.
He is the SSV on WNST, out on Twitter, and of course, we'll be here on Thursday driving you home with the Sunday Sports Voice. Now heard 3 sneezing until 5. I broke that right through there. Dennis Koulatsos joining us here from Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis, you mentioned the draft, but we got to go back to Snead here and this maneuvering that sort of takes the wind out of DJ Moore or Ridley or the need, Cortland Sutton or any of the rest of the wide receivers on Thursday night. And Ozzie talks so much about shaking up the room and changing the room. I don't know what fans expect, and obviously I don't take the phone calls. I see and hear the complaining and the bitching out on Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. Some of it relevant, some of it informed, some of it makes me scratch my head and say, do you watch the games? Are you paying attention at all? But when it comes to the wide receivers, I find it very, very hard to complain about what they've done here in the offseason in shaking up the room, maybe more so than anything we've seen during the Newsome history, where we've never seen the secondary completely thrown out the door and gutted and redone, and there's been some movement along the course of time to maybe do that. Certainly that's never happened with the linebackers or the D-line, because we've had such credible Haloti Ngata, Suggs, Ray Lewis, cornerstone players. But the wide receiver room, we've never had cornerstone wide receivers really around here. And the shaking up of this thing, the little Yahtzee thing they've done here, it's interesting. And I think it creates conversation. And I don't know that I believe they're a better offense on September 9th when Buffalo rolls in here at 1 o'clock. But I know they're different. And I know that it's been strategized and well thought through. And I guess we'll get to the Orioles and their lack of strategy maybe later in the conversation, and certainly later into the spring and the summer. But they put a lot of thought into this, and this Snead thing, this is some shrewd maneuvering going on here on the eve of the draft to drop that on Thursday and giving, New Orleans till Wednesday to get it done. And it appears it's not going to happen. That they have shaken up that room the way Ozzie promised 8 weeks ago.
Oh, they have most definitely shaken up the room. Last year's core receivers lacked explosiveness. They lacked good hands. In this year's class now, Willie Snead is a very stout, very, very strong, very shifty slot receiver. Smokey Brown can absolutely take the top off the defense as long as he's healthy. And Michael Crabtree, he gives you that WCB, that wily, crafty veteran. He can work the seams. He can work the red zone. That allows a team to draft a wide receiver that could hopefully be a wide receiver one down the road. This could be Cortland Sutton at some point, could be Calvin Ridley, could be James Washington, Anthony Miller. So it does give them that flexibility to still go out and get that rookie receiver and allow him to break him in slowly and assimilate him to the speed of the NFL. But they have most definitely shaken up the room. It also puts a spotlight back on Joe Flacco. If these players pan out and if they can stay healthy, it's up to Joe Flacco to deliver because there'll be no more excuses. Now, the only question is about Willie Snead is, was he a product of the system? Because let's face it, Drew Brees in that dome, he can make any receiver look good. So the interesting part for me as a fan is to see how will Willie Snead work with Joe Flacco. Will it translate to the outdoor stadium at M&T Bank? Can Joe Flacco get him the ball? Or will Joe Flacco prove to be who he's been in the past, a quarterback who just looks for tight ends down the field? That seems like that's the only kind of guys he can spot, maybe because they're 6'5", 6'6". But a lot of answers, a lot of questions to these answers this year with what they've done and what they're going to do in the draft. Very, very intriguing. Probably the most intriguing draft we've had here in years. It's a very critical draft with John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh has to win right now. So the players that they get, which I think puts the quarterback equation out of the way. They've got to get guys that can help win today, because if they don't win today, there is a great chance that John Harbaugh and Steph will not be here tomorrow.
Well, they've got a lot of guys with a lot to prove, right? And I thought that with the Orioles this year, that, Adam Jones and Brock, Britton, Machado certainly has capitalized thus far on it, that when you're playing for money, when you're singing for your supper, there's some of that cat on a hot tin roof thing that works for certain people, and for others it doesn't work. And I can't speak to that other than to say go, but Flacco now has credible wide receivers who all have something to prove. We're all singing for their supper to some degree here, all getting a fresh chance, all getting a decorated quarterback, in a place where there is a lot of tension to win. There's not a lot of sense of humor going on right now out in Owings Mills. There's a lot of pissed off out there because they don't like losing out there. None of these guys like losing. And I like that. And I think this is a real test for Joe to take a new core, to take a new group of people. I think there's going to be new linemen. And I think, to your point, a McGlinchey or whomever that's going to be, that name that comes off, it's going to be something to protect Joe, to help the running game, to help the passing game. There's going to be an asset on Thursday night given to Joe Flacco that is going to be in the near short term to say, hey, let's go win a championship this year, next year. We're not building, we're not retooling, we're not restocking. We're trying to win a championship this year. And people think we're an 8-8 football team. Let's go prove that we're not an 8-8 football team.
No, I think you're 100% correct, Nestor. They're going for it. That's obvious. They have to go for it. I think the fan base is energized. I think from all the forums, the Twitter, everyone's looking forward to the draft. To catapult us into a great offseason, a greater offseason than the team had last year. Open up against Buffalo and get the season rolling. I think the schedule it's decent. I mean, no team's going to have a perfect schedule. They do have 3 road games, but that aside, look, it's a great schedule. It's fan-friendly. Looking forward to a lot of games at the stadium. I think the stadium will be full this year. I think we'll put
you're optimistic on that, are you? You're on the record on that?
Yeah, I really am. I think
it'll be full for the Bills. I mean, look, I saw an ad on television. My wife watches a lot of TV, and I saw an ad. It was a Ravens ad, and I'm like, oh, it's for tickets. How about that? There's an ad on television, single game tickets now on sale. I mean, the Ravens have recognized that there's an issue here. Nobody's got their head in the sand, but it will be fascinating. I hope it's full. I mean, for my sake, for your sake, we all love sports, and we're tied to sports, and I've tied my whole life to Baltimore sports. And I'm going through some doldrums right now because of what the Orioles are doing and what the Ravens looked like last year. I am concerned about both of these franchises, and I don't have any problem saying I'm wondering if they'll both be here 10 years from now. You know, when the Londons start calling and the Portland start and the Montreals start looking to recruit baseball teams, right? Like, so I do worry about people not going to games around here and what the long-term effect of that is.
Yeah, we need them to be good for a lot of reasons. The civic pride is a big thing as well. Everybody buying gear, and I think it does bring communities together. We saw that back in 2012 and in 2000 when the whole town was almost like a collegiate fever pitch in their support of the team. Look, we've hit a dry spell, and now it's time to right the ship, and nothing does it like winning, getting back in the playoffs. And look, if everything lines up properly and you get a home playoff game that we haven't had around here in ages, wouldn't that be something, Nestor?
I'm keeping January empty. You know, one of my dear friends is going to the Australian Open for his 60th birthday, and he's begging me to go to Australia. And you know I like Australia, right? So, like, It's not hard to get me to go to Australia, but I'm like, dude, I mean, Ravens are going to be like hosting a second-round playoff game that week. I can do. Right. You know, I can't do it. And he's like, well, you come back to me in November and, you know, see how much the flights are then because, you know, the Ravens will be 3-6 at that point. I'm like, yeah, pipe down over there. You know, we got a Super Bowl winning quarterback, MVP quarterback here. Just relax. Everybody calm down out there. The draft's happening this week. I'm going to preach purple lavender calm is what I'm going to try to preach to everybody here, you know?
And we have excitement. We have new receivers. We'll have a new batch of rookies to break in. We'll have training camp. The Hall of Fame game to start off things right with Ray Lewis's induction. We have a lot of great things.
I got a road trip to Nashville. By the way, they're playing in Nashville on my 50th birthday, Dennis.
Oh, that's wonderful. When is that? What date is that?
It's October the 14th. It's a Sunday.
Nice.
Someone let you in on something. Vote on this for me, okay? Like, just hear me out. I am considering, first off, my flights are Saturday, Tuesday. So I'm trying to find a Monday 50th birthday thing that I could do with the folks going on my trip. I'm doing a small trip. It's a little boutique trip I'm running, right? Just a little 50 people is all I'm taking. You know, my 50th birthday, 50 people. I think on Monday there's a trip where you leave from downtown Nashville and go to the Jack Daniel's Brewery. It's 75 miles away, and do the tour and come back to Nashville. Does that sound like something interesting? I mean, it's something I've never done.
It does. See, Nashville is also a great town. Everybody, I've never been there, but everybody says it's such a wonderful town. So many great things to do. I might have to join you there in Nashville on that day.
It's my 50th birthday. I mean, I want to do something unique. I just don't want to blow it off and just get back on the plane and come home and, like, you know, whatever. I want to, like, do something Nashville-y, something Tennessean, you know? And I'm not talking about even from the alcohol standpoint, just something that would be a uniquely Tennessee. I've been to Nashville 100 times. I've never thought. It's 73 miles from Nashville. They put you on an first-class bus. Take it. They do it every day. It's like going in and out, right? So it's just a big tour. Just an idea I had.
That's nice. Look, all of my friends that have ever gone to Nashville have said it's just a wonderful, wonderful town. The people are super nice. It's a great place to do anything you want, and a great place to take in a football game. Nothing better for Raven Nation than to travel and support you there on your birthday in Nashville and come home with a victory, too.
And then 2 weeks later, we're going to Charlotte. We'll beat them, too. All right, Den, take care. Wait, what's going on at Coons Ford? What do you got happening out there? Give me a little story.
Yeah, we're just, look, we're very, very busy. We're very grateful to WNST. The advertising works. Get a ton of repeat referral customers that come in here all the time. Business has never been better, so we have a lot of late model vehicles for sale, lots of incentives, great finance department. We're a one-stop shop. It's that time of the year. Weather's breaking. A lot of convertibles that we're selling right now. Mustangs. Maybe we'll run out of Mustang when we're in Nashville and do a tour of downtown Nashville and show us around.
Well, I know they're like rocket ships, these new cars, so you need to get over there and take a test drive. Don't forget, Coons Ford also sponsoring our WNST tech service. Dennis, the pockets are going to be alive all over Baltimore here on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Plenty of maneuverings for the Ravens. You always get it first in the WNST tech service, and you know it's true. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford at Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5. We're calling you the official pregame for the draft around here, Dennis, so I will not only be tuned in, I will be a part of the act. I'll make my official stupid, silly mock draft prediction on Thursday on your show. How about that?
Are you going to give me the first pick or the first three? Give me the first three. Put it together for me.
First three for the Ravens?
The Ravens, yes.
Oh, man, I'd have to go position on that. You know, no. Come on, don't hold me to that. You really?
Okay.
Listen, here.
Whatever you want.
If it's homework that you're giving me, that
Whatever
Thursday, I will have 3 names for you on Thursday. How about that?
First 3 picks. I'll remind you.
I will have
first 3 picks.
I will have 3 names for you. How about that?
That'll be great.
And we'll see how far off I am. Dennis Koulatsos, he's over at Coons Ford at Security Boulevard. Go find him and find him here on Thursday on the Sunday Sports Voice, now heard on Thursday from 3 until 5. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.